next day. On and on and on. But we're going to open the phones up again. Imagine, over 170 AM and FM affiliates, huge internet audience, Roku, Boxy, TV stations, in Houston, carrying the show. No one calls in. Millions of live listeners calls in to defend. I wish that caller would have called in to go, you rednecks need to take your shots, like we're against medical science. We're against medical tyranny and forced inoculations with a government caught spiking vaccines and a UN caught spiking them. And it's you pseudo-intellectuals that think anyone from Texas or the South is stupid, that aren't real intellectuals. You just call in. There are people, it's the hippies and it's the highly educated liberals. You can look at the numbers. They've had AP articles breaking it down. It's liberal people with more than 2 degrees, 2 or more degrees, that are the most unvaccinated. Look it up. It is the real liberals, not the pop liberals, that are unvaccinated because they're not stupid. It is the most liberal counties in Northern California have the highest rates of no vaccination because they're not stupid. They're the type of liberals that socially are for equality and things, and I agree with a lot of their views. I'm a paleo-conservative or a libertarian. You call me a classical liberal because I love Thomas Jefferson. I've actually read his writings, read his books, read his letters. I agree with Thomas Jefferson 100%, basically. So you could call me a liberal, but none of these terms mean anything. I'm more allied with mainline conservatives because at least they're pro-life, anti-infanticide, anti-eugenics, and on the surface, anti-surveillance state. They tend to be police state-oriented in some ways and warmongers, and I'm reaching out to them, trying to get them to wake up. But I'm more allied with what you'd call the left when it comes to not wanting to have a bunch of imperial wars. The problem is, under the so-called left, we get even bigger wars. They just don't call them that. They call them humanitarian. So in the third hour, we're going to open the phones up on your vaccine stories, your take on vaccines, but just have it ready because we're going to go right to you. And I'm going to do it. This Brian Williams story is coming up as well, and it's incredibly important because it's not just about Brian Williams coming in an hour later or an hour and a half later on a helicopter into a zone where a helicopter had been shot down and claiming he was on that helicopter. It isn't like he was behind another helicopter and it was the fog of war and he just kind of conflated and exaggerated and said, I was in a helicopter that was shot down. He completely lied. The network backed him. The entire news crew of 6 people that were with him backed him. They had another helicopter full of more crew behind him. This was a conspiracy to make him some type of war hero. You know, my cousin's dad, who died last year, we were just talking about it before the show, he never bragged about it, but we dug through his army chest one time, and he, had the Bronze Star and all that type of stuff. He was shot down 7 times in Vietnam because he delivered special forces to hot zones and had made other crash landings. But you know what? Let's just take his Bronze Star away, and we'll give it to Brian Williams. Because Brian Williams says that he's this big hero who was shot down in the helicopter. But the people in the military that were actually there have now exposed him as a liar. At first, he said, no, I was shot down. Now he's been caught yet again. And we have a clip of Hillary Clinton doing the same thing, claiming she was in a C-130 over Bosnia that got shot up. Turned out none of that happened. These are congenital, degenerate liars. I mean, I've never been in the military. I've never been shot down. I've never been shot. And I would just never imagine that I would then just make up that I had been shot down. But that shows how much they lie. It shows how they think they can get away with anything. It shows how they are preying on the public. You know, yesterday I called this reporter that was saying, how dare you, to Rand Paul and implying that he's an idiot and all this stuff over, saying we should have the choice not to be vaccinated. I called her a media whore. And as soon as I said that, I had the image of MSNBC, CNN, Raw Story, Media Matters saying I called her a physical whore, which I did. Sure enough, Raw Story, Media Matters, MSNBC, headline, Alex Jones defends Rand Paul vaccine statements by calling CBS host a tramp and a whore, in quotes. But then later in the article, they have, it quotes, media whore. So see, that's being a media whore, what they did. Deceiving the public. I didn't claim she was a streetwalker or a prostitute. I said she was a media whore. That a threat, kicked him out of school, called the police. Well, now the story's on Infowars.com. There's video of it from court. Man arrested on terrorism charges for carrying protein snacks. Detained and jailed for 23 hours. Video proves TSA lied in court. They went ahead and tried to convict him of having explosives and threatening him for Power Bars, the most popular, longest selling. I mean, Power Bar's been around for decades. Any moron knows you can buy these at 7-Eleven. It contains milk, grain, and sugar, but they went ahead and said it was a bomb and went to court and tried to put him in prison. That's what's crazy about this. A few years ago, I had the guy on. They were trying to put life in prison for taping the police at his own house. They were calling it wiretapping in Illinois. And you just go, you're really going to try to put him in jail for life, calling it wiretapping when you knew he was recording you? It's like these police videos where they clearly beat somebody with a baton and then charge them with assaulting them. I mean, it's just crazy town. It's crazy town. You know, I was mentioning MSNBC. This is from Politico. MSC suffers its lowest ratings in a decade. This came out yesterday. They have an average of 55,000 viewers in the all-important 25 to 54-year-old. And on average, their shows only have a couple 100,000 viewers. Ladies and gentlemen, do you understand that this broadcast rated, and most of our stations don't even subscribe to that, so it's not covered. The last time they had an ad agency break the numbers down, it was almost 400,000 people every 15 minutes that tune into this. That was a couple years ago. And that's just AM and FM. Millions on YouTube every day. Millions on the streams and the podcasts and everything else together. 3 million a day tune in throughout the 3 hours. I mean, these people are a joke. MSNBC, when they first launched, had like 10 million viewers on their big shows. And it's not just because the internet and more choices came along. That was part of their slide. But what's killing them is their baloney. Everyone agrees we should all take vaccines, and Rand Paul's a kook. Let's arrest anybody that doesn't. Well, I come out and say, you're a media whore. Here's the article right here from the White House-run Media Matters. And then here's another raw story. Alex Jones defends listener Rand Paul on vaccines by attacking whore, trash, tramp, filth scum, CNBC anchor. Of course, those are all taken out of context. And you actually read later in the article, it says that Alex Jones called her a media whore. Here's another article out of Raw Story. You can flip to that, and it's got Jones yelling, "You arrogant piece of garbage. I'm sick of all you people up here lecturing us." She's the type of woman that wants Super Bowl ads to say, "Sorry, you had a boy," all a bunch of pinheaded cult members. Jones called Evans a media whore. And I went on for saying, no, she's a pimp, pimping out her audience with disinformation. They took it out of context and just say whore. But in the article, covering their butt, they say media whore, close quote. Big difference saying she'll whore herself out to the vaccine makers, but when they're done, how dare him call a woman a whore? I didn't call her a physical, street-walking whore. By the way, I got a lot more respect for a street-walking whore than a person like this shelling out folks with deadly vaccines and saying that there's no side effects. I'll call Megyn Kelly a media whore as well, up there saying there's no side effects, it's totally safe, take it, we need Big Brother. I mean, we're talking about kids getting hurt here. You are media whores. You are pimps for the vaccine companies pimping out your poor audiences. I'll say it again and again and again. Media whore, media whore, media whore. And I call men media whores. He calls them prostitutes, men and women. We've got Gerald Salente coming up. Prostitutes. You are a prostitute. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Jam-packed transmission coming up.
We're on the march.